I'm told by my dad and my mother, but my mother especially, we were in the kitchen, and in those days we had one of those long kitchens, you know, in tenements, they had tenement houses. And in the kitchen, she had her radio, and she had all different things while she was cooking. And then over here, on this side, just between the kitchen and the next room, was a player piano. And my dad used to sit at this player piano and sing along with the rolls of music that it used to play, like When Irish Eyes Are Smiling and things like that, you know. And one day he said to me, Risa, come on, join me here, right here, and sing along with me. It's good for you to read that. I was 10 years old at that time. I remember that. That I remember. And my father said, "Good. I'm glad you can do this with me." So he fixed everything, fussed over everything, and sure enough, Irish Eyes came on, right? And it was playing, and all of a sudden I joined my dad, who had a good voice, by the way, and he said, well, why don't you join me with the next stanza? And I said, that's fine. Sure I did. I joined him, and all of a sudden my mother was cooking at the kitchen stove, and she said, Chris, I think Risa's got a voice. And my dad said, yeah, I think she has. But isn't it wonderful we have these records that she can learn these things and be really able to sing them? So every day he would do this with me. Not every day, every Sunday he would do this with me. And I got to be, I'd look forward to it like one looks forward to anything, a lollipop probably. Anyhow, he was very, very sensitive about it, because then he went on to tell me that my grandmother in Norway, where he was from, by the way, she had a mezzo voice herself, and she used to sing in church. And he said, and she had a beautiful voice, Risa, and we used to listen to her every Sunday in church, and I mean, it was just lovely. Well, when they started talking about where did I get my voice, I presumed probably from her, from Dad, you know. So my mother was very haughty and hurt by that, because she said, I have a lovely voice too. So we said, yes, you do, but it needs training and everything. You never went into that, and you never was interested in that. She said, that's true. She took me to a person called Harry Parado. I think it was Harry Parado. And he taught young children how to sing songs, ensembles, and things like that. And it was very interesting for me, because I never, who thought of an ensemble at 10 years old? And I went to him, and at that time, I forget, I think Peters, Roberta Peters, studied with him also for a while. And we knew that Beverly Sills used to be on the other hour. So we competed with one another. That was the advice of Anna Schoenrene, who was my teacher at Juilliard. And she said, I don't think, Risë, it's the right time. I'd like you to wait another year and let's see how it works out. I don't think you're ready for this yet. I had no money, but Anna Schoenrene paid for the whole thing. My going over there, starting at the Mozarteum with Gotthard Schroeder to study repertoire and mise en scène. She was wonderful to me, marvelous. But she had great faith in me, too. Marvelous. And there was so many things are very vivid in my mind. Going to the festival, shopping there, eating frankfurters and sauerkraut and everything, and I mean it was just simply marvelous. And although I didn't speak any German, I did learn quite a bit. And by the end of that September lecture, I had to go back because I had to go to Juilliard, right, for the next session, which I did. I tell you, when I went back, I felt like I was way above anybody there. It was amazing because Europe did so much to me. I learned so much in Europe, and I had wonderful coaches. Gotthard Schroeder was such a great teacher, especially for me. She was extraordinary, extraordinary. And that I loved very much. The attitude and the training was so vastly different in its production, in its manner of teaching, in the way people used to crowd around and talk about the way they did certain things in order for the teacher who was there could fathom exactly what they were talking about, where the difficulty was. That was very interesting for me. And I missed that at Juilliard. Edward Johnson started that with me. He wanted me to do the mezzo roles that were deep, because my voice is a deep voice, right? And he started me with the Dalila, because he wanted my French to be very good. And we worked on French for a while. And then I was given to, what was his name? I can't remember the Frenchman, the singer of that time. And I was given to him to learn my French and the pronunciation a little more decisive and well, anyhow. with no American accent or whatever, I presume. At any rate, I did. And he was a wonderful teacher. Dalila first. I sang Dalila first. And strange, there were many people at the Met themselves who discouraged me. De Freya, for instance, was a man who, he used to look at how tall I was, and he'd say, "You'll never do as Dalila. You're much too tall." So I said, well, if that's the case, you talk to Edward Johnson about that. And he said, no, I don't have to. He wants you as Dalila, and Dalila he'll get. I sang it, and it was a fairly good success, I think. But Rosenkavalier was something that I went after very much through Chardonnay, because she was convinced that that would be the role. And I guess at that time it was. And I had a wonderful time with her, because she would give me pronunciations, and she was from a different part of Germany, and not always did she give me the right pronunciations of these things, but it was in a language that was very foreign to her. She couldn't speak it, but it was Austrian, and that's a dialect. And the dialect was something I adored. And when I went into the coach one day, and he was from that area, he said to me, "Risa, don't worry. You and I'll figure it out." I think one of them is, yes, definitely. The top role, well, I loved it when I sang with Lotte Lehmann. That I loved. And I would say that at that time, yes, it was my top role. And I came from Europe, where I sang with a friend of mine who you probably know, Ann Ziff, and her mother was a very wonderful singer from Prague, where I started, and was such a tremendous help to me with the German language, because she spoke it so fluently. And she and I were the two Americans in Prague, so we had a ball. Yeah, I met him there, yes. But that wasn't the year. That was the next year. Yeah. Anyhow. One of the nicest things that happened to me, I mentioned Ann Ziff earlier. I wanted to say that it was Ann Ziff's mother who really showed me my life in Prague, because I was such a nobody, and I just felt like I just had nothing to say. And she'd say, "Speak in German," and I'd speak in German, and I spoke very bad German, and she'd say, "That's all right, that's all right. Try speaking in German more." And then all of a sudden, she picked me up. She said, "Yeah, I'm going to teach you German. You're going to learn how to speak German fluently." And by God, she did. I mean, Harriet Henders was her name. And Harriet had her debut at the Metropolitan Opera with me and Lotte Lehmann. And that was one of the great thrills of our lives. I mean, she was such a sweetheart. She was to me, anyhow, one of my favorite people. I loved it very much. I liked traveling and hearing these people, and then hearing them at the Met. There's a big difference. It was a great thrill. Probably the greatest thrill of my life was the Met debut. Yes. It was beautiful. Look, I've had one of the most marvelous careers. I can't ever talk about anything else. When someone says to me, well, how did your career go? Explaining the downfalls and the horrible things that used to happen. I didn't have that. I had a beautiful career in every sense of the word. It just kept going up and up and up. And I was not aware of it when it was happening. But later on, in retrospect, I really remembered all the different things that would happen to my other colleagues that never happened to me. And that was a thrill. That was a thrill for me. Nelson Eddy was looking through the digest, a musical digest, and saw a picture of me. And he got in touch with his manager in New York, and then he got in touch with Arthur Judson. And he and Arthur Judson worked it out that I should get in touch with MGM. And I said, no, you get in touch with MGM, or with Nelson Eddy. So Nelson Eddy flew to New York and met with me. And he was a darling. I loved him dearly. And that was the beginning of Chocolate Soldier. I often wonder how that happened. An opera career and a film career. I think I took a certain area. No, I do know. There was a time in San Francisco when I was singing there, and L.B. Mayer, oh God, who all were there? The director and somebody else from the studio. 3 people were there to hear me. And they came backstage afterwards, and those dressing rooms were ridiculously small, and they sat in the bathroom, they sat on my makeup table, and we just discussed it. And I said, you know, I've never made a film in my life. They said they know that. And would I be willing to make this one? And I said, only if my manager says, yes, you go ahead and do that. And we'll arrange everything. Well, they did. They arranged my whole schedule that I had, which was considerable. I did concerts as well. Anyhow, and then all of a sudden I was in Hollywood. But my husband was much behind that. by that time, he and I were very much together, and he had a great hand. He had a great hand in many things in my life. Yes, he was. God love him. I wish he were here now. Oh, he'd probably take over. I don't know, maybe Oktavian. Or that era is really what I'm talking about. I spent so much time with it. In creating certain things, and you get to the point where vocally you know exactly what you're doing, and you're saying that, and that's beautiful. Oh, I'm delighted. Did you know that I was on the National Endowment of the Arts panel? I don't know what year it was at the beginning. And, oh, I love being on there. We used to give monies to orchestras, ballets, opera companies, anything that was very musical. And in those days, what's her name? Judith? Oh no.
Was it Nancy Hanks who ran the National Endowment for the Arts?
Yes.
Nancy Hanks.
Yes. She was simply wonderful.
I never met her, but I've heard incredible stories about her.
That was such a brain.
Yeah.
And such a great woman, a really great woman.
The building where the National Endowment for the Arts is headquartered now is named after her. The National Endowment for the Arts is in a building called the Nancy Hanks Center.
Yeah.
That was in the 1960s and 70s, those early
Was it?
days.
And
yeah.
I didn't remember that. Yeah, it would have to be, yeah, it would have to be. She was marvelous. I didn't accomplish exactly what I wanted to. It was too tight-knit. It didn't have wings. Didn't have wings. I used to accuse them always. They were too direct scholastically, right? Which is all right, if that's what you want. But I was never trained in that way. And that was a real problem with us. And I introduced opera there because I was terribly interested in music of that sort. And I was really pushed in those areas. I mean, what was his name? Tony Bliss invited me after lunch one day with him. He said, "Risa, how would you like to head an opera company?" I said, "Are you really with it?" And he says, "Of course I am, Risa. I wouldn't say this if I wasn't." And he said, "The reason I'm saying this is we're going to start a company of young artists from the Metropolitan Opera. And you're going to put the companies together." Well, when I heard that, and I said, "The whole company?" He said, "The whole company." So I saw myself with the orchestra, with the chorus, the main singers. I mean, oh, and it was something. Lila from the Reader's Digest just offered me $1 million. And I said, Lala, did you say $1 million? She said, yes. I said, $1 million. She said, well, we discussed it, meaning her husband and I, she said, and we decided that we'd give you the first $1 million to start the company. Oh, I said, that's incredible. Well, it was incredible, all right. And it worked beautifully for the first year. A second year got a little more difficult. And that was from, believe it or not, Rudolph Bing, who had come in instead of Edward Johnson. Yes. And everybody loved the company. We were so close to the company. Thank you very much. My pleasure.